Ladies and gentlemen, ever since the last episode, I've been laying the foundation for a new project we're going to be starting up today, so let's roll that intro time lapse and check out exactly what I've been doing. Oh yeah. Kicking things off, I adjusted this lower peak of the mountain here to be able to create a larger, flatter surface since this is where I'm going to be building the monastery. Now, when I was building this part of the mountain originally, I had something totally different in mind, and that's why I had to change it. But a very helpful, and to some of you perhaps obvious tip, is to have planned out what you want to build on your custom terrain as you're terraforming it. In this case, I wanted a bit of height variation for the various structures to not have everything on a flat surface, which could look kind of boring and unrealistic. Make sure you add plenty of dirt layers to have the terrain sloping a little bit. It's always more interesting to look at than just flat dirt. My plan for this part of the mountain is to try and have it finished by the next few episodes, and the plans I have should hopefully be pretty sweet looking when it's all said and done, if all goes as I envision it. And hey, listen, if you're new to the channel, what you see in this video is the kind of thing I do on this channel, so consider subscribing if you're interested in seeing what my world turns into going forward. And listen, if you'd like more people to see this, you can hit the like button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. But enough of me begging for your undying love and affection, and let's just hop into first person mode and check out what I plan to do with this build going forward. I will see you on the other side. Okay, so this is what we got so far. I managed to build a lot in the time-lapse on this side with the path going up, and I understand a lot of you are probably going to be wondering, what is this large thing that I've framed out? And my plan for this area is actually to have a mountaintop lake. So what I'd love to do is maybe have a peak coming up from here, going up, maybe not too tall, not as tall as this one right here, and probably one right here. Then what I'd like to do is have a little hole in the mountain right here where the water is coming out, flowing down like a waterfall into the lake. Maybe we'll even have them from the different peaks, and the water will eventually flow from the lake right here. I'm thinking all the way down along here and then connect up to this point, which right now doesn't make any sense at all. And then this point, of course, connects up to the waterfall that is over here that goes all the way down into my little nether portal area. So once we get that all figured out, it's really going to connect everything up, and that's what I'm trying to do in this world. Just get everything kind of connected, and at some point, I think I'd even want to make like a little secret tunnel where you can swim down here, and have that be the secret entrance to a sort of underworld, which we're going to build beneath both of the mountains here. Since both this side over here is hollow and this one, it leaves a lot of space under there where we're going to have all our farms and the other different things you might have, a storage room and that. And I think it would be cool if you got in there either through swimming down there. Another option I've been thinking about is to, behind this waterfall, have a little entrance right here somewhere to get in. It would just be a really cool way to access this space that's behind here where we already have a lot of farms once everything is covered up and you can't actually just fly around it. So the plan for this episode is to try to plan out where on these 3 different platforms right here we're going to put the different buildings of the monastery. So we're going to have everything all planned out, and then I'm hopefully going to be able to build a third or half of it, and we'll finish all of it in the next episode and hopefully get this lake finished as well. But this is all going to require a ton of resources, and those are resources that I don't have. So let's roll a quick time lapse of me collecting all the things that I need for this build, and then from there we can plan out exactly what we're going to do. At this point, I definitely have resources figured out. I mean, look at all this stuff. I've smelted up a bunch of smooth sandstone, and I've got a bunch to boot here. And then I've got all these 3 shulker boxes of terracotta, so I'm pretty much ready. So let's try to think about exactly how we want this thing planned out. Okay, I have laid something down right here, and to begin with, it's gonna look very, very chaotic, just a bunch of diagonal patterns and shapes. And if you guys would like to know exactly how I plan a cluster of structures like this, let me know and I will make that video happen for sure. So in this video, I'd like to get started with a lot of the main part here. Preferably, I'd like to get done with this section, the wall here, and maybe the entrance gate. I'll see how much time I actually have to put into this, but ladies and gentlemen, let's not waste any time. So without further ado, let's roll the time lapse. Oh yeah. First of all, let me preface this by saying that I went all in with this build. I've been super excited about making this side of the valley look awesome, so the pressure to build something really sweet has really been building up in my mind, but in the end, I think it definitely got there. To design this monastery, I've been looking at a lot of pictures from around the world, and the monasteries in southern Europe were my favorites, and most of them have this sandstone color or a marble white to them. So I decided to mesh those color schemes together, and the most interesting texture I could create in the game was a gradient of those colors from the sandstone at the bottom to the bright white concrete powder towards the top. All the blocks in this build have been used in other builds around the valley, so it won't look too out of place, because that was definitely something I was worried about when designing this build. One major design detail that separates my build from the inspirational southern European abbeys I was looking at is the roof angle. My own monastery has a much steeper angle than most of the places in the Mediterranean, simply because the roof culture I've already established in my area here has quite steep angles. In the real world, places with less precipitation, so rain, snow, hail, that kind of thing, don't require as steep roofs as places that have more /toggle downfall, if you know what I mean. Water's pretty heavy, and if it collects on top of your roof instead of sliding off, let's just say there will be less of a roof to speak of afterwards. Of course, in Minecraft, precipitation doesn't actually affect your builds in-game, but if you keep architectural consistency in mind when designing a village or town, it'll look a lot better, that's for sure. The reason the roofs in Ventia are so steep, despite the implied warm climate, is because of the heavy rain it frequently gets. As often as the skies are clear, Ventia is subject to storms with blasting winds that bring in the rain. That's also the justification for why it's so green and lush. And right here is a perfect example of how I made the roof of the tower way pointier than they are in the Mediterranean for the most part to fit my style. Another thing you see in these monasteries are the walkways between the larger structures with repeating arches, so I tried to emulate that style to enclose the courtyard here. I know I mentioned earlier that I thought I'd get the main structure finished and maybe the entrance before the time lapse, but like I said earlier, I kinda got carried away with this and finished the entire main courtyard. There are tons of details I need to add, which I'll show you after the time lapse, but the heavy lifting is mostly complete, and I hope you understand what I meant when I said it turned out pretty neat. And if you understand that to the point of being subscribed, first off, you're the champ and have impeccable taste in YouTubers, obviously. But you also might want to hit the bell button to get notifications whenever I post a new video. It definitely helps me out a lot and lets you know that something unreasonable has been built in my world. Speaking of unreasonable, I've been talking about when I should do the next world tour, and it's currently episode 16 of Building with Antlerboy. And last time I asked about when I should do a world tour, the idea of episode 25 came up. I just wanted to ask you guys if you think enough has happened since the last world tour for me to warrant a new one, or if I should wait until episode 30 or so. There's a certain project I really want to finish before the tour, and that's what I'll be doing as soon as I'm done with this monastery area. So I'll probably have around 6 or so episodes to finish that, which could work if I decide to do the tour by episode 25, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always love reading them, and I read all my comments, so don't hesitate to make your voice heard. At this point in the replay, you see me building the entrance towers, and they really make this whole place look a lot more grand. Watching this back really gets me pumped to hop back into the game and finish the rest of the abbey. I think this place is going to look amazing when the lake is built and all the lush greenery has been added. I haven't built a single tree since my 24-hour challenge, and I'm really itching to go back to my roots and branch off into some tree building in an upcoming episode. But enough of me making silly tree puns. I'm going to leave you with the rest of this time lapse and get into first-person mode, so until then, I will see you on the other side. As the sun rises over the valley here, let's take our first look at the finished product over here. Hold on, if I can stick the landing. Yeah, perfect. There she is. Honestly, I think this is a perfect addition to the world. And just imagine when we're going to have a structure here, a few structures right here. I think this side is really coming together at this point, and I'm really excited, like I said before, to get going with way more things over here. But right now, I'd like to show you guys a few details that I'd like to put in. The one obvious detail is the fact that this place doesn't have an interior yet. It does have this interior courtyard that I do want to decorate with a lot more barrels and life, maybe put some animals in here. It is looking pretty empty in here, and I definitely want to deck this place out fully with an awesome interior. Look at what a crazy mess I've made with all these shulker boxes full of materials. I definitely collected way more materials than I needed for this part of the area, but that just means I have a lot more materials to use for whenever I need to build things in the future. So it's never a bad thing to have way more than you need. Also coming out here, I love the fantastic view from the balcony right here. Just look at what we can see. And once I start building the thing that I have planned for over there, the view from here is going to be even more awesome. Even looking over this way, if you can use your imagination for a little bit, just imagine this entire lake finished and a few peaks coming up here. Basically, this balcony has 180 degrees of awesome view. This is very quickly turning into one of my favorite builds in this whole world, to be honest. As I was building this thing up, I thought of something that I was going to do last episode when I built the boat, but something that I completely forgot and that's way overdue. And that thing is that I really have to update my maps. I mean, what I really need to do is create a map room for them. I mean, look at how that just reveals behind the tower. It looks awesome up there. I love that we added this. Maybe we'll even find a way to put the map room up in the monastery. But as I was saying, we seriously need to update the map that already exists down here. When I was rebuilding these stalls, I had a bunch of animals that were just sitting here, and so I just moved them here because I need to create places for them to live in the world. And while I was collecting resources for the monastery, I went to the village over there in the snow biome, and I found myself some cats that I didn't already have, so I went ahead and tamed them. But yeah, now I just have an enormous amount of cats right here, but that's all well and good, because that just means I can place them around in the world in the various houses and make them feel a little bit more lived in. But ignoring my animal friends for a bit, this is where we have the map. And it looks like last time I updated the map was before I even built this upgrade to the village right here. Like, you can still see the crane before I dismantled it. So this is a pretty early rendition of the map. So what I'm thinking is we just take this thing down and update it pretty much. Like, at this point, I don't even know if my map is big enough to house what I'm building here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is just as I suspected. These maps don't actually have the ability to show the entire world at this point. So let's put these back and check out the changes. That is a pretty drastic difference to our world here, but you can just barely see where we've started building this pathway up to the monastery. So the monastery is probably somewhere right here where this bell is. All right, so I've crafted a few maps, and let's just go to the monastery since I think you'll be able to see it in the next map over, and boop. And it looks like that. Ooh, that looks amazing. So I got myself a few item frames so that we can extend this thing. So we're going to have to move the crafting table and bell here. And let's see if I got these in the right order. Now that is looking a lot better than what we had before, but it looks like this part hasn't been updated. I can't believe I missed that. Let's take care of that. Okay, now we should finally have the whole thing. That looks amazing. This map also gives a lot of perspective of the areas that we really need to work on. So for example, this area over here is something I'd really like to fill out in a future episode. We need to work on this area in the castle, just lushing it up and building the next gatehouse. Also, this residential area right here needs to have some stuff built on the empty green patches right there. This is where we're going to have to build an awesome tree for the enchanted forest. And then, of course, we have the entire west side right here, which needs a ton of work. So let me know if you're particularly excited for any of these projects, and I'll probably get to that faster than everything else, but all of these things need to get done in the near future. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wild ride this episode. I got this entire thing finished, and I'm really, really happy with it and excited to keep going and start recording for the next episode here. But for this one, it looks like I'm really running out of time. And you know the drill. If you watch this video all the way to the end, then you're the champ, and I appreciate your existence. And until we see each other next time, have a good one.